Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being a part of this evening's event. My name is Ann Thompson. I'm the interim director at the Essex Library.
I'm Tom Piezzo. I'm the director of the Brainerd Library in Haddam.
We will begin shortly with the candidates forum. First, for District 36 State Representative with incumbent Christine Palm for the Democratic Party and Chris Turkington for the Republican Party. And then for District 33 State Senate with incumbent Norman Needleman for the Democratic Party and Brendan Goff for the Republican Party.
Good crowd.
Before we start, we would like to say thank you to the candidates for participating and also say thanks to everyone who submitted the questions of which this forum will consist. We also greatly appreciate the efforts of everyone at Valley Regional High School who helped make this forum possible. And finally, thanks to Valley Shore Community Television for handling the audio-visual component for broadcasting us to Channel 19 and making the content available on demand tomorrow at their website, vsctv.com.
Candidates will have 3 minutes for opening and closing statements, 2 minutes to answer each question, and 1 minute for rebuttal. As a reminder, there will be no opportunity for audience participation this evening, but we do hope that you'll find your time here informative. Now let's please open by inviting those who wish to do so to join us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and I'd like now to welcome your candidates for the House of Representatives, Representative Christine Palm and Chris Turkington. Woohoo! Chris Turkington won the coin toss before the event, so he will begin with the opening statement of 3 minutes. I'll start the clock here for you now, Chris, and give you a warning when you're a few seconds out.
Okie dokie, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. I'm going to be reading this here. My name is Chris Turkington. My friends call me Turk, and with your blessing, I'm going to be your state representative in the 36th district. I live in Higginham with my unbelievably awesome wife, my 3 children, 3 of my 4 children, Hope, Hunter, and Michael, who are all right here. My oldest daughter, Victoria, lives in Boston and works at Harvard, teaching organic chemistry. I had to say that because I'm an extremely proud dad. I have found my forever home. I'm going to live the rest of my life in this wonderful home that we have created and worked hard to fix and make our own. I am 50 years old, but after this campaign, I'll probably be 60, right? And I've been working and fixing things since I was 12. I've had 3 great occupational passions in my life: horticulture, construction, and music. I ended up here at Region 4 School Systems performing maintenance at JW in Valley. Then 2 years ago, after my department was restructured, I work now exclusively here at Valley. So from the front entrance to Scott's Orchard in the back, the air handlers above our heads, and the tunnels that run under the school, they all fall under my umbrella here. The teachers, the staff, the vendors, and all the students that make this little city, I've come to know and to count on me to help them when they are in a jam. I have a tremendous amount of respect and appreciation for all the people that make this machine run. Yes, I'm a little nervous. So why jump into politics? It's for the next generation. Selfishly said, it's for my children. I want the state of Connecticut to be a place where I can stay and retire without the temptation of moving to Florida to get away from the overbearing tax burdens we all face. A state where I feel safe with low crime rates, and a place where my kids get a top-notch education built around their strong attributes and goals. A town where the community that lives in it makes the decisions on how to govern it, grow it, and protect it. Far too many rules and regulations and costs are put on the backs of people who gain nothing from them. I need to stand up and say, who thinks of these things? Who in their right mind thinks that the new numbers on Route 9 is an efficient and cost-effective process?
We have 10 seconds, Chris. We have 10 seconds.
10 seconds?
Thank you.
Then I'm going to skip to the last paragraph. Tonight I have one goal to achieve, that you find me genuine, a real, relatable person who will have your best interest in mind when serving you in Hartford. I'm extremely proud of the campaign my friends have put on. They've worked their butts off to get me to this point. I feel we've taken the high road on every hurdle we have faced. The Put Turk to Work team is amazing, and I hope everyone who supports me knows how much I truly appreciate the guidance, hard work, and the time you have blessed me with. Thank you, and I humbly ask you to put Turk to work on November 8th.
Thank you, Chris. Representative Palm, and I've added 20 seconds more to your time. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to all of you for being here tonight so that you can become informed voters. Mr. Piazzo and Ms. Thompson, thank you for being the moderators that you are, to the school personnel, and to the Valley community, the Shore TV, thank you for broadcasting this. Serving in elected office is exhilarating. It's the way that you can put into action everything that you see needs doing. To do it, you have to be a policy wonk with just enough knowledge of the law to write bills that will pass legal muster, but you also need to be, in some senses, a social worker, or at least have the compassion of one, and the organizational skills of a case manager. Because in addition to the lofty ideals that we get to enact, being a lawmaker is a day-to-day, nitty-gritty, round-the-clock job of troubleshooting for people's needs. Last week, I worked with Congressman Courtney's office to help an elderly resident get her IRS refund that went missing. I worked with the Office of Healthcare Advocate to find out why another elderly woman was charged twice for the same ambulance trip. I made sure that the DEEP released funds to a nonprofit locally that was promised and got lost somehow in the shuffle. I had to rattle some cages at FEMA to see what the update was on the Deep River Fire Station grant that we put in. I participated in a cleanup day in Essex, and I spoke with our Haddam superintendent about some mandates for new reading programs. Finally, I met with Chester residents who were concerned about excessive tree cutting by Eversource, and this was a pretty typical couple of days. I've been a journalist, a high school teacher, a corporate trainer, a nonprofit communications manager. I was a speechwriter for the state treasurer, and I once owned a bowling alley with my neighbors. It always seems to bring a laugh, but that is a small town, small time business, and a hard one. I use all of that experience every single day representing you. Because to me, truly, being a good state representative is like being a CEO, but one who understands that the shareholders in her concern are the 3.6 million people who live in the state. Over the years, I've learned what you need, from handling DOL requests to COVID protections, working with the local pharmacy to unblock log jams in the COVID vaccine supplies, and on and on. I haven't always succeeded. I do have something that sticks in my craw. There is a gentleman in Deep River who is awakened at night by a rumble strip down Route 9. And I went with him in his car to see what that was all about. We teased each other about getting into a car with a stranger. And I heard with my own ears the rumbling sound that the cars made, and I could not get the DOT to fix it. So I apologized to him, and I'm happy to say I could count on one hand the times that I've had those sorts of failures.
Yeah, 10 seconds.
I am really proud of what my Democratic colleagues and I have been able to accomplish, from safeguarding the state during the pandemic to, yes, cutting $650 million in taxes this year. Mostly I'm proud and grateful to be able to serve you, and I'd like to keep doing it. Thank you.
So thank you, everybody, for your enthusiasm, but we are going to ask that we limit the outbursts, and just so that we can get through the process and leave enough time for the senatorial candidates. So thank you for cooperating on that point.
Question 1 is addressed to Mr. Turkington first, and he will have 2 minutes to answer, and Representative Palm will rebut for 1 minute, and then she will be able to answer for 2 minutes, and Mr. Turkington will be able to rebut for 1 minute. First question, what are your thoughts on the validity of the 2020 elections, and what electoral reforms, if any, would you support as a legislator?
First of all, thank you for the question. What do I think of the outcome of the 2020 election? Was that the way it was posed?
What are your thoughts on the validity of the 2020 election?
Whether I thought it was illegal or it was done well is the question. It is the election, it's the process. I know many people don't agree, and that it possibly could have been altered in some way or shape or form. That doesn't matter to me. We have what we have. I accept it. I come from a time when the change of power was a good change of power, and that's what I'm looking to see. I hope in the next election we have that same process. We take it, we take the results, and we live with it. That's all I have. Legit?
Representative Palm?
Yeah, well, to answer the question, Joe Biden categorically won fair and square. And I think that if what's interesting to me...
Please not have outbursts from the audience.
Thank you, Tom. What's interesting to me about the concept of the voter fraud is that not one Republican elected candidate on any level of government elected in 2020 invalidated himself or herself because of the alleged fraud. So until that were to happen, no fewer than 17 courts threw out allegations of voter fraud. So yes, I stand by that answer. As far as the second part of the question, what would I do to impart some reforms? I would like to see early voting. That's in-person early voting, which is different from by absentee ballot, because there are people who cannot get to the polls on one day a year, either because of elder care, physical disabilities, lack of transportation, low-wage jobs where they can't take the day off. As a member of the GAE committee, which is the Voting Rights Committee, the General Assembly, I worked on that. Is that my dinger?
That's your time for rebuttal.
Oh, all right. Well, I guess that was my rebuttal. And the last thing I just want to say is that we also should look seriously at ranked choice voting, which gives people more options and breaks the logjam of the two-party system. Thank you.
You still have 2 minutes because we're re-asking the question now to you to answer. So if you wanted to continue.
I guess the only thing I would add is that we are the Constitution state for a reason. I believe in the concept of a mutable, changeable, improvable Constitution. And so those who say we shouldn't open up the Connecticut Constitution where our voting rights are enacted as opposed to statute are forgetting that the Constitution has been amended 31 times since 1965. In the 70s, we lowered the voting age from 21 to 18, and we did a series of other tinkers. What the early voting referendum ballot question would allow us to do, the succeeding legislature to do, is pop the hood on our voting process, fix what's wrong under the hood, and slam it back down with no fraud, no risk, and without favoring any one party over the other.
Rebuttal, Mr. Turkington.
This is going to be my chance to talk about early voting. I don't support it. I like what we have, what we had. The one thing that I would entertain was taking voting day and making it a holiday. Let's think about that for a second. Let's just have that day off. Make it a holiday so everybody has the ability to get out there and vote. The main reason, and I'm open to read more about it, I don't support early voting is the cost. There's a lot of money involved with that. It's not just a matter of we open a door, it has to be secure. If this is 30 days, that's 30 days worth of somebody being there, manning that. I think it's a bad idea, and I think the system we've had that in place has worked well for a very long time. Thank you.
I would ask my supporters not to clap out of respect for the request of the moderators. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, both, for your answers. Question 2, we'll go to Christine Palm first. How would you prioritize environmental issues in the lower Connecticut River Valley?
Well, that's the reason I ran for office. The environment is a sacred trust, and it's the thing that I have worked hardest on up at the Capitol. I was very pleased that 2 of my climate initiatives passed this year, one that mandated the teaching of climate change, and those of you who saw the New York Times today saw that it's rarely being taught. I'm very proud that Connecticut will now be teaching it to every child, including those in this school who deserve to be part of a solution to a problem they really had no hand in creating. I was also able to create the Office of Invasive Aquatic Species to handle the problem of hydrilla, which is plaguing the boating and recreation and tourism, and of course the natural ecosystems along our rivers. There are so many other things that I would do and will do as Vice Chair of the Environment Committee. Our solid waste management problem is huge, and I was very pleased that Senator Needleman and I were able to work with Joe Courtney's office to bring all kinds of remediation to that issue, as well as the solid waste management program that's a pilot in Deep River. I think we need to ban polystyrenes. And our chlorpyrifos bill, which got halfway through it, we banned it from golf courses. I would like to see it banned for all non-agricultural use. There is a laundry list of initiatives for the environment. I could go on, but I think is that 30 seconds left?
30 seconds for your response.
The last thing I want to say is this year was a big banner year for the legislature here in Connecticut. We updated the bottle bill, which was 25 years without any kind of a fix. And I was very pleased to be able to ban PFAS, which is the firefighting foam that was causing cancer rates to rise among firefighters.
Thank you. Chris, you have 1 minute for your rebuttal, and then we'll re-ask the question after that time.
The environment is extremely important to me. Like I said, my first passion was horticulture. I've been working with plants for 30 years, if not more. There are certain ways to fix things, and I am actually pretty well versed on the hydrilla issues she's talking about. And I do want to have hydrilla out of those coves, because that's where it's really hitting. It doesn't grow very well in moving waterways. But the hydrilla, we need to have a real fix for it. We need to have an herbicide that we can put on it. I want to see the costs for this. There is. It's called Sonar. It's the herbicide that is used to control this. I want to see the test spots where we're going to be using this. I don't want to simply say, let's fix the environment, let's stop hydrilla, and all we do is put a sign up that says, wash your boat off. That's what I don't want to see. I want to take care of the environment, and I don't want pollutants. That's my problem. I want us to, polystyrene, I agree with Christine completely on that. I don't think we need to have those things. We use them here in the schools.
Chris, would you like to just continue with the question for another 2 minutes? Would you like me to restate the question?
You can restate the question.
Sure.
I
How
thought
would
I didn't fully understand.
How would you prioritize environmental issues to the lower Connecticut River Valley? So you have 2 more minutes.
It does have a huge impact. It has an impact on all of those businesses down there, all of those homes. It has an impact. I took the time last night to watch a wonderful video that I believe Christine helped put together regarding hydrilla. And I agree with all of those things. What I don't feel is that this is the most important thing on our slate right now. The environment is huge. I love it. I love playing outside. I have water that comes through my property. But to me, there's other bigger issues that I want to focus on when I become your state rep. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to focus on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Representative Palm, you have 1 minute for rebuttal if you choose.
Just very quickly, I'm glad that my opponent shares my concern about invasives. The purpose of creating a group of biologists and business people and wildlife experts in this invasive species office is to do the research that we need done. I am not an expert in that field, so my job was to get the funding for the experts. I do believe in respecting people who have spent their lives studying issues such as that. And the cost to our young people is immeasurable. It is the existential crisis of their lifetimes. There are young folks choosing not to have children because they are so terrified of what will happen in the future. To me, there is no price that you can put on the sanity, the sanctity, and the mental and physical health of our young people. And that's what's at stake.
Thank you. For question number 3, Mr. Turkington, what qualifications would you bring to your term of office, and what is your availability to serve your constituents?
Could you repeat that for me, the first part?
Sure. What qualifications would you bring to your term of office, and what is your availability to serve your constituents?
I have experience in life. I didn't go to college. I had a business right out of high school. I graduated high school and had an 06 number and had employees. That's what I did. I've worked hard. I've worked hard forever. I went to the school of hard knocks. I've had lots of different things that I've done that will allow me, that make those quick decision thinking, those processes. I've had those. I've done rooftop gardens in Manhattan. The amount of time and setup and things and processes that you have to think about, that foresight is one of the skills that I take. I'm always looking down the road. I always see what's coming around the corner. That's one of my attributes for this, is to look at the problem, bring people together, find a common ground, and address that issue. My availability, unfortunately, is I'm going to end up having to leave my job here at the school. I have to. This is listed as a part-time job, but Christine will tell you it is not a part-time job. And in order for me to properly come in and attack the issues we have, I need to devote that time, especially since this is my first run at it. I don't have the experience, but I can't get that experience unless you put me in there. I need the experience of how the things work there. I learn, I can read, and you all know this, you can read this all day, but until you actually get in there and do it and have those experiences, you can't make the best decisions. For me, I'm going to make myself completely available to everyone.
You have 10 seconds.
I'm going to stop there because I get a rebuttal, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Representative Palm?
Yes, thank you. Well, after 4 years serving in the legislature, including as vice chair of environment and chair of the internship program, which mentors college students, I have learned how that building works. I have learned how to reach across the aisle and have bipartisan bills. I've learned how amendments work. So the experience I bring as a sitting legislator is valuable. In my life, I have been, as I said in my opening remarks, everything from a journalist to a small business owner. And to Turk's point, when I ran for office, I did launch my own business, Sexual Harassment Prevention LLC. I'm a corporate trainer and train nonprofit agencies. And I have had precious little time to do that because this is not only a full-time job, it's more than. And at this point, I want to thank my wonderful spouse, James Baker, for his support. Because when I launched this endeavor, it was with the hope that we could actually at least be financially secure.
You have 2 minutes to answer the question now.
And it's been a struggle. And yet it's one that I welcomed and that I would not give up on, because it is a full-time job and you have to be available. I was knocking doors the other day and I said, here's my cell phone to a fellow, and he said, you don't really give your cell phone out, do you? And I said, of course, I have to be available all the time. I'm not deluding myself to think that this job is as important as being an emergency room doctor. I'm not a first responder. But we do have to respond immediately to an awful lot of case needs that come up among the folks we serve. So in addition to bringing a lifetime of experience as a high school teacher, as the mother of 4, as a person who has survived cancer, there are things you bring to your life as a legislator. Having been the power of attorney for my mother and mother-in-law and seeing them through dementia and all kinds of medical problems, I think that gives me an insight into some of the healthcare bills that we've done. So you bring your personal life to it, but you also have to have professional standards. And while one can learn from one's colleagues, the most important thing you bring in is ideas and passion. Thank you.
Mr. Turkington, you have 1 minute.
I agree 100% with the passion. That's why I'm doing this. I didn't wake up and say I want to be a politician one day. I'm doing this because somebody needed to step up and change the direction we're going on. Making yourself available is what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick a spot where once a week I am at a certain restaurant. I can support these local businesses, the coffee shops, and you're going to know that, hey, I'm going to go see Turk today. I know he's sitting down at the coffee shop at this time and this time. Another thing Christine just mentioned was the cell phones. My campaign, every single thing I'm mailing out has my phone number on it. My phone in my pocket rings. It just rang 3 times up here, so I didn't shut it off. But you will have direct access to me at all times. And I know she said that she does give her cell phone out, and that's fantastic. But while I've been on the campaign trail, the constant thing I got was that she doesn't get back to me. I heard it over and over and over again. It's usually by email, not necessarily a call.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, the 4th question will begin with Representative Palm. Please talk about your position on Connecticut's gun safety laws. You have 2 minutes.
Sure, thank you very much. I am very pleased that Connecticut is one of the most gun-safe states in the country. As a member of the Judiciary Committee, I helped craft the bill on the ERPO law, that's the Emergency Risk Protection Order, which has already been credited by the state police for stopping a potential mass shooting at Manchester Community College. There are a lot more things that we need to do, and yes, I respect the Second Amendment. There is no reason that anybody should believe that I am coming for your guns. I cannot say that more clearly. If that gun is being used for hunting, farming, recreation, self-protection, but for a tormented 15-year-old to have an AK-47 or an AR-15, no. I don't believe it, and I believe that those should be patently illegal. We were able to ban ghost guns, which I was very proud of. I'd like to see us go farther, and one of the things that I have said over and over again to constituents who say, well, I'm a responsible gun owner. If you are the responsible gun owner you believe yourself to be, and I believe you, why don't you stand up when there is a mass shooting and decry it instead of saying, well, I would never do that.
Thank you. Mr. Turkington, you have 1 minute to rebut that statement, and then I'll ask the question again. You'll have 2 more minutes.
I am, turn it on. I am a legal gun owner. I enjoy shooting. I don't enjoy hunting, but I do enjoy target practice. I firmly believe in your Second Amendment rights. It seems the only thing we seem to do is take guns from responsible gun owners. We don't address the issue. And the issue with these mass shootings and people shooting other people, it's mental health. This is a person thing. There isn't a violent gun. When I hear the word gun violence, it drives me nuts. Guns aren't violent, people are. We have to change that thinking. Mass shootings, right here in this very school, in the 200 hallway, I got to take part in a training exercise put on by the state police. They normally do their canine dogs, but this time they did a live active shooter in the school. They practiced it. The SWAT team came in, they set it up, they had the radio blaring with the kids screaming.
Chris, would you like me to add the 2 minutes to this comment?
I'm just going to continue with this if that's fine?
Sure.
Sure. They made it the most hectic situation where they had imitation dead children in the hallway, wounds that had to be fixed. They were using things, they're not paintball guns, but they were live little, they looked like Tic Tacs that they were shooting. And they said, and I saw this, I stood right in the rooms with them with my glasses on and my safety stuff, and the one officer from the SWAT team said, we practice this not for if it happens, we practice this for when it happens. And that's a different mindset when you're training. He said the most important people in this school, he says, if we have a shooting, I'm coming to find you first. I'm the maintenance guy, I got the keys to everything. And that's what he said to me. He said, when I watch these, what they call drop-off and pick-up people, which is usually a constable or your security guard, they're here when your kids start the day and end the day. Those people who did this, they failed miserably. These were state officers that failed this training miserably because they have to retrain them. Your normal training is to pull up to a scene of something crazy and secure the area and stop. They have to train these guys to go, if you see somebody shooting a kid in there, you drive your car right through the door, and you stop that immediately. They have to retrain them. I'm glad that they're doing this. It's important that they're training these people. And I think they're coming a long ways, and I will support any funding for those police that I can to keep that training rolling.
Thank you very much. And Representative Palm, if you'd like, we have 1 minute to rebut.
Yes, thank you. I would like to respectfully disagree because throughout the world there is mental health issues and problems. COVID affected the entire world, and there has always been depression, poverty, and human suffering. Only in America are mass shootings a problem. To simply say it's about mental health is a complete falsehood. Secondarily, in my experience at the legislature, when there are mental health bills, the pro-gun lobbies show up, and magically the Republican caucus, almost to a 1, votes against funding for mental health. So you have to pick which it is. Are you going to control the guns, or are you going to rid the world of mental health? Because having mentally ill people get their hands on guns is the problem. I want to say quickly, we allotted in this last budget $10 million over the next 2 years to fund police task forces to address the illegal trade. Backing the blue, $10 million for cops to help them protect themselves. $400,000 for the Department of Public Health for a gun violence prevention program. And we established a commission on community gun violence to research and look into the problem.
That's your time. Thank you.
Mr. Turkington, with the 5th question, do you plan to initiate or support particular projects or initiatives in the upcoming legislative session?
I'd love to. I've got to go in there and get my feet wet, right? Is there any one passion that I have that I'm going to go and start pushing? No, I have a lot to learn. I'm not trying to lie. I'm not going to make it up. I got to be honest with you. I just want change on directions that I think we're going wrong in. The things that you just mentioned that they funded, those sound great to me. Maybe we can get more for that. I'm not trying to dismay or put down anything that has been accomplished, but I think that we need to keep working those things and accomplish more things. That, I know it sounds like I'm talking in circles here, but I don't have one particular item I want to go fix. I want to fix them all. I want to try to fix them all. I got to see them. I got to be in there with them. I got to really, really read them, understand them. I don't make blind decisions. I just really want to help these people in my 4 towns. That's what I'm worried about. These 4 towns, Haddam, Higginham, Chester, and Essex. That's what I'm worried about. Did I say Deep River? I'm sorry. The great people of Deep River.
Representative Palm, you have 1 minute to rebut.
Yes, thanks. Unfortunately, the first year of the legislative session is the year in which individual legislators may submit bill ideas, and you have to hit the ground running. The second year, counterintuitively, is when committees do bills. So if my colleague is not ready on day one with his bill ideas and his research done, nothing will happen to those. What I plan to work on is in the field of healthcare. I want to go back into the Compassionate Care Aid in Dying bill, which didn't pass. I'm working with a pharmacy in Haddam to expand the scope of services for pharmacies as healthcare providers based on our experience during COVID. I'd like to get more money for small towns. I have to speak fast because I do have a lot of ideas for their public health departments. The Teachers Retirement Bureau is not working properly. I've heard from many, many retired teachers here in our district that they feel railroaded into a lesser healthcare plan, so I want to bring that under the control of the comptroller's office, and I'm already working on a bill with Sean Scanlon, who I believe will be our next comptroller. I worked with some young millennial colleagues on a debt reduction bill even before the feds did it. We had a bill that came very close to passing. It got through one chamber, but not the other. Environment. I want to do a real protocol for DEP and DOT when it comes to tree cutting. Right now, they are not abiding by their own legislative mandates in a consistent way. I think that needs to be looked at. I'm working with a young constituent on a bill about bioplastics, making plastic out of corn and organics. Do I still have some more time?
We've added the time to your rebuttal, so you have a minute.
Oh, yes, okay, fine, thank you. I introduced a bill before, which I'm going to reintroduce. Bills often take years and years to get through, and that is to help our community nonprofits by tying the rate of reimbursement that they get from the state to the fair market value of the services they provide. Right now, we don't compensate them adequately, and that is a harm to our local nonprofits, which are actually businesses. We talked about the early voting rights. If and when the referendum passes, it will be upon the legislature to craft what early voting means. And nobody is talking about 30 days. There are no details yet. That is what the legislature is going to do. But across the country, the early voting window ranges from 4 days to 30. And my colleagues and I are talking about something around a week. But again, that will be determined yet to come. I want to ban certain rodenticides that people use, and then raptors come down, they scoop up the dying mouse that's managed to crawl out of the house, and there are safe ones and there are unsafe ones. Am I done? Yes. I have to stop? Yeah. Okay, I'll stop.
Mr. Turkington, you have 1 minute for rebuttal.
Thank you for pointing that out. I will hit the ground running. When it comes time, I will know what I want to pass. Like I said, I'm new to this. I just had to learn how to run a campaign. I've been to the state. I've got this book. I've been reading it diligently. The state was very kind, not the state. I have Joe Garabedian. Joe, where are you? I don't even know. He's in here somewhere. but he is from the outreach program. And he is going to be my right-hand guy for getting me on track and getting me acclimated to what I need to do. I've never done this before, and I'm going to figure it out, and I am dedicated to getting in there, sticking my hands into this and going, what can I fix? I won't just sit back and miss this opportunity.
You have 5 seconds.
I'm going to get it done. I will get it done. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Our final question for the House candidates will first go to Representative Palm. Please share your thoughts on the educational system, including the role of parents and teachers and the content of school curriculums.
Sure. Thank you. First of all, I want to say that having been endorsed by both the CEA and the AFT, as well as the Retired Teachers ARC, I stand with teachers. I was a teacher for 10 years. More importantly, I am the mother of 4 very well-educated, ethical, successful sons who went through the public school system. And I think that the question of parental control is an absolute boogeyman because teachers are highly qualified, highly certified, highly supervised professionals. If all the people who decry the lack of parental control in schools actually chaperoned more, showed up at parent-teacher night, perhaps volunteered in ways, or served on a local board of ed, that would be a great thing. Instead of talking about parental control, we should be talking about parental cooperation. Because yes, a parent's involvement in a student is the #1 metric for that child's success. However, having been a teacher for 10 years, I know for a fact, firsthand, that sometimes kids, for whatever reason, cannot trust or confide in their parents. We all wish it were otherwise. But I had a young student who was being sexually molested by her uncle, and she did not feel she could talk to her own father about it, the brother of the molester. I was a mandated reporter, and I did my job, and I trust that teachers will do theirs with parental input, absolutely. As far as curricula go, if it upsets people to learn about slavery, suck it up. Slavery was a terrible thing. And if it makes your child feel bad, that is an indication that your child is a sensitive, caring person on a journey to becoming the kind of adult that will prevent tragedies and horrendous events like slavery from happening again.
Thank you very much. Chris Turkington, would you like 1 minute to rebut that statement? And then
Yeah, and you could roll the next 2 minutes right into it if you wish.
Will do. 3 minutes, thank you.
Parents are the first teachers. The parent is the first teacher. That's where it starts. That's right. I'm going to check my notes here because I don't want to forget something. I have no problem with any child. I learned about slavery in school. Did you? We all learned about it, and nobody denied it. It's just, I don't know why that would be an issue. We realize it happened, and we know it was horrible. You live and you learn from your mistakes. That history needs to be there so we don't repeat that history. I don't have a problem with any of those things. I do have a problem with indoctrination. I'm not saying that happens. What I'm saying to you is these teachers, I work here in this school, and we have certain teachers that go to one extreme and certain ones that go to the other, and that's a balance actually with these kids. They have different input from different teachers in different classes. We have, the big issue back in the day was CRT, right? This is what we have now. It's called CEL. CEL's been around for a long time. This isn't a bad thing. It's called social and emotional learning, okay? But CEL, I think, what I want to say to you without getting into details is look this book up and read it yourself and tell me what you think about it. I'm not going to make a decision for you, but look this up. Jeffrey Benson is the author. And I know it's in the school because I delivered it. I don't co-parent with the government, though. I won't do it. I want to work with the teachers. We try to volunteer as much as we can. We are so supportive of our kids' education, but we still don't know exactly what is going on in these schools sometimes. That book I just showed you isn't curriculum. That just went to the teachers. That's a way of teaching. That is not something that they teach to the kids. It's an approach to teach kids. Let's think about that. Christine wrote a letter regarding me and sent it to all the teachers. And I was a little upset at first, but basically she said that I was trying to undermine the teachers' authority. That's not the case at all. I love these teachers. I support them wholeheartedly. My mother was a teacher of 35 years.
You have 10 seconds.
My wife works in the education system in Branford, and I'm here within these walls every day taking care of these teachers. That's my time. I can't say it any more importantly that we need to work together with teachers and parents.
Thank you very much. And Representative Palm, you have a minute to rebut, please.
Well, I guess I would say only that during COVID, it was I who was able to get the governor to get teachers COVID pay so they wouldn't have to use their personal pay. And I have been endorsed by 3 teachers' unions, which I think speaks volumes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we will now have closing statements. Representative Palm, you'll go first with 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. My opponent is a friendly guy, as you can see. We've shared a few laughs. His party is not so civil. I have seen it up close for 4 years. On several different occasions, I've heard Chris say, when people ask if he's a Democrat or Republican, he says, "I'm a human." And aside from stating the obvious, that sounds like an admission that he too knows that his Republican Party of today is nothing to boast about. It doesn't appear on his flyers, for example. I don't blame him. This is not the Republican Party of my own father. This is the party that kicked out Liz Cheney because she believed, quote, "Our institutions only hold when men and women of good faith hold them, regardless of the political cost." I would rather see us think in terms of we, us, and ours than I, me, mine. In the preamble to the Constitution, it says we hold these truths to be self-evident. So, as a Democrat, I believe in being a public servant. I believe that means we. And I believe government, with all my heart, is here to help, educate, and protect people. We didn't talk about backing the blue. It might interest all of you to know that the morning of January 6th, as I and my colleagues were being sworn in up at the state capitol, we had to be sworn in outside because of COVID, and there was a group of Trump supporters and anti-vaxxers heckling us and shouting at us and rattling the police barricade. When I got home that day, I saw on TV what we all saw, which was the insurrection at the state capitol. As a result of that, my judiciary colleagues and I crafted a bill to protect state police, state capitol police, from being interfered with or harassed. Every Democrat voted for it, and only 3 Republicans voted for it, one of whom was a police officer. The other 8 voted no. So when you talk about civility, when you talk about what can heal our nation, you have to first start with being realistic about the facts, about who is doing what to whom. I hope and I choose to live in a world of compassion, not turning away, which is what I see happening all the time. I refuse to gin up fear, to blame the other, to blame immigrants. I would be really interested to know how many people in this room lost a job to a Mexican immigrant who was picking tobacco instead of you. Finally, folks in here of a certain age will remember the old adage from the Peace Corps, the hardest job you'll ever love.
You have
that
5
could be
seconds.
said of being a legislator. I love being in elective office. I work hard at it night and day, and I believe in the people of this district. I believe they will see reason and compassion over self-interest and fear. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Turkington? Mr. Turkington, you have 3 minutes for a closing statement.
Thank you. I'm going to read again so I don't forget anything. I once again want to thank you all for being informed voters. I hope you have found me to be true in my passion for wanting to represent you in Hartford. I promise to work hard to get you what you need to achieve the goals you've set for yourself and your family. My focus is on the 4 towns I will represent, not the federal government's agenda. I also promise to be all-inclusive in this governing. A horrible mindset we have is a label. Red, blue, left, right, liberal, ultra MAGA. The work is done in the middle. Things get accomplished in the middle. Achievement and progress, those things happen in the middle. It's almost over, my friends. The lawn signs, the relentless TV ads, man, have they been brutal, huh? The social media posts, all the intrusive campaign mumbo jumbo, it will end soon. Thank the Lord. My commitment and my fight for you will be relentless and continuous for at least the next 2 years. I will not be a politician ever. I will be a public servant as long as you will have me, or we finally get term limits in place. This is important to me. Christine Palm is not my opponent. If she has a flat tire on the side of the road, you better believe I'd stop to help her. Human kindness should always trump different viewpoints. My true opponent is the bad practices and policies that hurt the 36th district. Lack of oversight on projects, bad spending practices, unfunded mandates, painful tax burdens. That's my true opponent. Now, this forum tonight is not the way I like to disperse information. I understand why we do it, and we thank you so much for putting this on. I am firm on this statement. Don't talk at me, talk with me. I'm going to say that again. Don't talk at me, talk with me. I listen to learn and grow, not to reply. Back and forth interaction is crucial on understanding a person's problems and goals. So if you have questions that did not get answered tonight, please email me through my website, putturktowork.com.
You have 10 seconds.
Or you can call me. My cell phone number is also on that website. I kindly ask for your vote, and please spread the word about me. It's a new way with a new face, but I have old work ethics and old morals. Now please, put Turk to work. Thank you.
Thank you to our legislative candidates. We're going to take a 5-minute break to transition to the Senate candidates.
We'll begin again with the senatorial candidates, incumbent Democrat Norm Needleman and Brandon Goff in just a moment. So if we could please find our chairs to be ready to roll. Okay, so thank you once again, and we're going to begin with the winner of the coin toss, which was Senator Needleman, and then Brandon Goff will speak first for the closing statements. So Senator, you have 3 minutes to begin your opening statement.
I thought it was supposed to go. That doesn't matter. How are you? Good evening, and thank you guys for doing this. I really appreciate it, and thank you all for coming tonight.
Extremely grateful to be here. This is our real one and only debate. We've had forums before, and I do believe that debates are a good way to highlight who you are, what you want to do, what you've done, and give voters a choice. So I'm Norm Needleman. I am the state senator. I've been there for 2 terms. I am the first selectman of the town of Essex. I have been doing that for 6 terms. I own a business that I started in 1979 that employs probably around 300 people now. At around 50 years old, I kind of decided that my Act 2, not necessarily by design, but it turned out that my Act 2 was going to be public service. And I think that my sons like me away from the business. So I get to be here talking to you, and I get to give back that which was given to me. I couldn't be more grateful for the life that I have. My sons live here, my stepdaughters, one of them lives in Old Lyme and teaches in Waterford. One of them lives in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. We love the Northeast. I love Connecticut. I love Essex. I love my whole district. And I have now 8 grandchildren. It was 7 up until 3 weeks ago. We have another one coming. And what I do with my life today is for the future of my kids and my grandkids who are all planning on staying here. You know, there's no way to prepare for being a state senator. I thought I had been reasonably prepared, and I guess my experience in business and municipal government helped me. Plus I am, as Christine had said, sort of a policy wonk. I like policy. I hate politics. And I feel like what I do is public service. I take no money for my time in the Senate, virtually no money for anything I do for the town of Essex. And I feel like I've made a mark, you know. I've made a mark because I love what I do and because I want to help people. I'm a moderate. You know, I've lived long enough to understand what the extremes are like. I try to see both sides of every issue, and in small part, that actually sort of directs how I am in the legislature.
You have 10 seconds.
Excuse me?
You have 10 seconds.
That's it. I think that the legislation we passed has been broadly bipartisan out of my committee, and I'm very grateful for having had the opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Brendan Goff, would you like to give an opening statement, please?
Evening, everyone, and thank you to the Brainerd Library, the Essex Library, and Valley High for hosting this tonight. I'm very happy to be here. Sorry if I seem a little nervous. This is new to me, especially at this level. But yes, I am Brandon Goff, and I'm the Republican candidate for State Senate of the 33rd District. My background's pretty short. Just turned 26 this past month. I had to think about that for a second. I'm an East Hampton native. I did 5 years in the Navy, active duty on subs out in Washington as an electronics technician, where I was able to get a trade, get a job, and help my country. I wasn't ready for school. I didn't want to go. I wanted to be an adult. I wanted to be an active member of society right away. I was impatient. Moved back to Connecticut in 2019, bought a house back in East Hampton, and I really have to say thank you to my wife now of 6 months for really helping me and supporting me this past year. It has been very busy, and I definitely appreciate it. So I moved back here, got a job as an electronics technician. I wanted to stay active though. Rejoined the Navy as a reservist, and I wanted to be more active locally, so I joined the Brownsfield Redevelopment Agency in East Hampton, and now I serve on the town council in East Hampton. But the biggest reason why I'm running, because I love the state. I left a great state in Washington with plenty of job offers. We were loving it out there in the mountains, all the sights to see. But I wanted to come back here, but I'm very sad and scared at the way Connecticut has been headed, the way it's been run. Just this past year, we have overtaxed our citizens $5 billion. I don't think there's anything else that has to be said besides that. We have become so dependent on other states. Our country has become dependent on other countries. We don't even have a plan of where to put our trash in our state. We have to drive it out of state or ship it out of state. Our energy costs, some of the highest in the nation, and that's because we're dependent on resources from outside the state. The news reports are coming out now. Get ready for winter and expect blackouts, and that's scary. That's scary that we didn't build up a good enough plan to prevent this from happening. Violent crimes are increasing in this state. The laws that have been created that were supposed to help don't.
You have 10 seconds.
I'm running to try to fix and help the state, something that our current supermajority has not been able to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. During the intermission, the two candidates agreed that we will work a 2-minute candidate answer. Then instead of a rebuttal, we're going to combine. So the second candidate will get 3 minutes, and then there'll be a rebuttal at the end of 1 minute for the first candidate. So it's going to be 2, 3, and 1, just so you can follow along.
Thank you. So question 1 to Senator Needleman. What qualifications would you bring to your term of office, and what is your availability to serve your constituents?
Thank you for the question. As I said in my opening, I've been in business for 43 years. I've been working since I was 12. My father owned a grocery store. I drove a cab to put myself through college. Thought I was going to be a teacher. Business experience, and then serving on boards and commissions in town, which I did prior to running for elected office, and then elected office at the town level, and now 4 years of elected office at the state level has given me not only a broad amount of experience, but a varying perspective on how things work, what needs to be fixed, what doesn't. Just a point of correction, we don't have a supermajority. Supermajority means that we have a veto-proof majority in both chambers, and we don't have that. Democrats are the majority party, however, and as such, as the majority party, as a senator, you're called upon out of the box to chair a committee, and I was given the Energy and Technology Committee, which doesn't mean that I control the price of fuel globally. It means that I provide a regulatory framework that I think works very well and is working better all the time. I was not a fan of deregulation of our utilities when it happened in the 1990s. That cat is way out of the bag. Eversource does not own generation. Those are all independent businesses. Our natural gas does largely come from Pennsylvania. I've been a big supporter of adding natural gas capacity because I believe in a balanced approach to energy management going forward.
You have 5 seconds.
But I just believe that a lifetime of experience in a varied way puts me in the perfect spot at the perfect time to be a leader in the Senate on issues that I have cognizance over. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Goff, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Qualifications for politics is always funny for me. Sometimes it sounds better that a lifetime is a good thing, but especially recently, the biggest complaint that you hear is someone is out of touch, out of date, been in office too long, and is not relatable to the public. And I think that's short and sweet answer. Is I'm more relatable to the public, to the normal person. Everything that is passed, good or bad, through this state directly affects me, my friends, my family, my neighbors, because not a millionaire. I'm a normal trades worker. I'm a normal person trying to help myself and everyone around us, and I feel every bad thing that happens. I think another good qualification that I have is I have a little bit, as busy as I am, I do have a little bit more time in my hand. I am on the council, but I'm not the first selectman, or I'm not the town council chair. I do not own a business. Going part-time at my work, I'm already part-time. I'll take a leave of absence when I need it. So I have more time to be able to focus on this and focus on what's important. Thank you.
Senator Needleman, you have 1 minute for rebuttal.
Sure. I don't live in the land of wishful thinking. I live in the land of concrete results. Through my whole life, I've done that by building something from scratch, by delivering orders from my father in his grocery store, by leading a municipality where we passed 7 budgets unanimously, which is unheard of, by being a first selectman in a town that had a contentious board of selectmen for a long time that now votes unanimously because I believe in finding common ground with people. As I said, I'm a moderate, and I look to find solutions that work for the largest number of people possible. I have not been a politician for 40 years. It's not my career. I have nothing to gain from it. I look to give back because the universe has been very, very good to me. And I put my nose to the grindstone, work behind the scenes to do the best job that I can for the
You have 5
residents
seconds.
of this district and the state. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, second question. First to Mr. Goff. Please share your thoughts on the educational system, including the role of parents and teachers and the content of school curriculums.
Thank you. I think there's a really bad misconception, and I heard it earlier. The Republicans don't like teachers. That's, I think, is just absolutely ridiculous. Teachers were my role models growing up. Some of my teachers in my local town went to high school with my grandparents. If I did something wrong, my family was the first one to know about it, but they were also the first people I could go to if I needed something. Shoot, I met my wife in school, and our teacher was the best thing for us. He didn't yell at us for showing up late when I was picking her up and going to get Dunkin' Donuts. And it was someone safe. It was someone safe you could talk to. The problem is that Board of Educations and parents locally don't have a voice if they want something different, because what the state says is what goes. And if you don't follow it, you lose funding. And that's millions of dollars that go to the towns that the towns just can't afford to go without. I think what needs to change, though, and I was very impressed. We went to Westbrook the other day, and I was very impressed with how they took matters in their own hands. They're getting away from what the state wants with forcing college education, and they're looking more to expand their trades programs. They took it upon themselves to build the first certified tech ed class that got them college credits, but also expanded their hands-on goals and everything else through robotics and CAD and 3D printing. And they're also working with Electric Boat to be the first school to be certified through welding. That's great. That's what should be happening. State should just be making sure that reading, writing, and math skills are great.
You have 10 seconds.
And at that same point, they need to be looking to the future for those that don't want to go, like myself, into college, but into trades, and how we can help them.
Thank you very much. Senator Needleman, would you like me to repeat the question?
Sure. And I think it's a really important topic now because it's become very politicized. I think that in my wildest dreams, I would not have ever expected that the conversation about education would become as political as it is. I listen to kids a lot, and I mean, I have them. I have grandkids now, and I know that the question really is the educational system, as Turk had said, indoctrinating people, which I don't think it is, or is it following the mores of society, which have changed to be more inclusive and more open? I don't see any indoctrination going on. I do agree with Brandon, and I've been a big advocate since I met with the leaders back almost 20 years ago now at Middlesex Community College, that we have had an obsessive focus on four-year liberal arts degrees that has not only hurt a lot of kids and caused a lot of kids to have debt when they got out of school, but has also created a tremendous lack of talent for doing exactly what Brandon does now. Electronics technicians, machinists, mechanics, plumbers, electricians, carpenters. These things have sort of been pushed by the wayside, and I applaud that we have an educational system in Connecticut that provides structure for school districts and at the same time gives those school districts the leeway that they need to develop the programs that the communities around them are looking for in terms of future workers and future productive members of society. So I think that there's a lot of red herrings being thrown around right now. This whole idea of parents guiding education. I taught for 1 month, and it was the worst month of my life. I realized that I was remarkably unqualified to be a school teacher, and that's what pushed me back in a cab, which led to me getting into the business world. I tip my hats to teachers. They work every day. As I said, my stepdaughter's a teacher. She works her rear end off teaching in an elementary school with kids, many of them having special needs. She created a creative movement program that the principal of that school welcomed in as part of the curriculum. The school system in Connecticut allows for that. It's not restrictive. The fact that it allows for inclusion of people that are a little different and doesn't allow for them to be made fun of, God bless them. Thank God that we do that, and thank God we have the common sense not to go down the rat hole that other states are going down right now. I love Connecticut. I love what it does for our kids. I love the education that our kids get. I love the freedom that our towns have, and I welcome a conversation on it that isn't filled with red herrings and innuendo.
Thank you. And Mr. Goff, you have 1 more minute for rebuttal.
Thank you. Recently, the state passed a program to make community colleges free. And that sounds great, but it's not free. Nothing's free. And what that money could have gone to the public schools, expand their trades. It could have gone to the trade schools to either make them bigger if they're full or to help further develop their programs. And it also could go to the apprentice programs that are in this state and help them. Right now, my wife is an apprentice at the hospital. She has to pay to be there. No wonder why they don't want to go in and do the hands-on training. It's just easier to get a degree and not know what to do when you get out of it. It's because the people that want to do something have to pay for it, and that's ridiculous. The money should be going directly to those programs to help grow our state. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Question 3, Senator Needleman. What are your thoughts on the validity of the 2020 elections, and what electoral reforms, if any, would you support as a legislator? You have 2 minutes.
I've lived through a lot of elections in my lifetime. Some of the results I've liked, some of the results I have not liked. I have never questioned the transition of power in this country when the election was decided. Again, I think we're in uncharted waters right now. It's a bit terrifying that people are running for office. Thankfully, not that many in Connecticut, although there are some who want to challenge every time they lose. I believe you win, you lose, and you move on. Democracy requires the peaceful transition of power. Donald Trump is a big baby and a sore loser. I'm sorry. I grew up in Brooklyn. I grew up.
Please, excuse me.
I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and the guys from Queens were punks. I'm sorry. And he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth and somewhere else. He just doesn't want to lose, and he's leading a lot of people down a rat hole that's going to destroy our country. Joe Biden won the election. Barack Obama won before him. Donald Trump won in 2016, whether I like it or not. George Bush won in 2000, whether I like it or not. And I'm not the guy who wants to tear our country apart. As far as early voting and absentee ballots, I think that we have had too restricted an absentee ballot policy in the state of Connecticut, and it forces a lot of people to lie. I know the people who vote absentee, some can't get to the ballot box that day.
You have 10
some just
seconds.
say it. I support the ballot initiative to look at early voting, and probably would support expanded absentee ballots once we are out of the crisis that we're in. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Goff? Mr. Goff, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I've been asked this question about, I don't know, at least 10 times, every newspaper, every news media thing. And honestly, the first time I was like, this is the dumbest question I've ever heard. I can't get over it, and I'm sorry. I don't like, you're right, nobody likes losing, right? Nobody likes when your guy loses. It's just, that's a fact of life. But Trump is not our president right now, and it just baffles me why 2 years later, why this is still being asked. And after hearing the crybaby comment, I see why. So no, President Biden is our president. Doesn't mean I voted for him, but that's it. Who cares? And on top of that, the early voting, that's kind of funny. I know it was tried to pass in Connecticut, what was it, about 5 years ago, something like that, 6 years ago, and it didn't pass. And realistically, I think with these questions about the validity of our elections, why would we throw another wrench into something? Why would we make it even more complicated than what it is? Connecticut has great voter turnout. It makes sense in other states where you have to drive an hour to the nearest polls, that there isn't as many chances to have absentee ballots, this and that. And depending how it's done, it can cost millions of dollars, and we have a hard enough time getting volunteers for our polls now. But if it does pass, it's not the end of the world. There are 46 other states that do it, which doesn't mean it's a reason to do it, but I hope that if we do pass it, we do look at the other 46 states and we do develop a good plan that's not a waste of money and is not overcomplicating something. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Needleman, you have 1 minute for rebuttal.
Yeah, and thank you, Brandon. I think that takes a lot of courage when you're in a party that has half of its voters or half of its registered voters that don't accept the results of the last election, including the guy who lost. So I appreciate that you made those comments, and I agree. The basis for early voting, which I like a little bit more than a broad, expanded absentee voting, is important because it gives a broader window. There's no set time yet, whether it's going to be 3 days, 5 days. It will be extra work for town clerks and registrars who are all overworked and underpaid as it is. But I think it will be a good thing for the state because as a Democrat, I believe that we should be looking to expand access to voting, not restrict it.
You had 10
and what
seconds.
we're seeing in parts of the country is an attempt to restrict it, not expand it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next question, we'll begin with Mr. Goff. What is your position on the state's role in LGBTQ plus rights?
Okay, thank you. I'm a big believer in just leaving people alone. So these personal questions that keep coming out, and right, there may be comments from other members in the party or other parties or just people out there that have a problem with other people, but I'm just a big believer in you should grow up, go become an active member of society, and I don't care what you choose for. I don't care what color you are. I don't care any of that. Sexual orientation, this and that, nothing. And I really think it's ridiculous. I'll support any program that helps them. or someone who needs help. And I just don't like putting people down, and I don't like getting in people's personal lives, as long as it doesn't interfere with someone else. Just do your own thing. I'm really sorry, confused of why these are still questions.
Yeah. So Senator Needleman, you have 3 minutes.
I have to say that I kind of agree with Brandon here. We should let people be who they are. We should encourage them to be who they are, because the more true you are to yourself, the more likely you are to be your best self. Unfortunately, not everybody agrees with that, and protections have to be in place for those who are different, whether it's because of their religion, because of their color, because of their sexual orientation. Protections need to be in place. And again, this is another area where a lot of people throw red herrings out. What about bathrooms? What about sports? What about this? What about this? We are living in a world where young people your age, are speaking loud and clear about the future that they want. They want, as Barack Obama had said, the moral arc of the universe arcs towards justice. And justice is justice for everybody, not just wealthy white landowners in 1776. It's everybody that lives in this country deserves a just and fair shot to be successful, to live a good life, and to not be beaten up for who they are. So I think that as a legislator, I've supported bills that protect those rights, and I will continue to do that if I'm reelected. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Goff, if you want 1 minute more for rebuttal on this topic.
No real rebuttal. Just leave people alone and support them if they need help. Simple as that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have question number 5 for Senator Needleman. You'll have 2 minutes to respond to. Please talk about your position on Connecticut's gun safety laws.
Thank you. So this is always a tough topic. I am a gun owner. I have been for 20 years. I know how to shoot a gun. I think that gun rights come with gun responsibilities. I also believe that the more guns you have, the more gun crimes there are going to be. So I think that it took one of the worst tragedies in the country's history to pass probably not only the most stringent but the most successful gun safety regulations that any state has passed. Sadly, it came at the expense of more than 20 lives of kids who were massacred by a young guy who had access to a gun. When I think about this topic, I think about the tape of Warren Buffett, who was a Republican Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, who made it very clear that the current interpretation of the Second Amendment is the biggest scam being perpetrated on the American public, because it's fueled and funded by gun companies who want to sell more guns. We are a capitalist society. They're pushing to sell more guns. That's what they do. And if you don't believe that access causes more crimes to be committed with them, or more people to get shot accidentally, on purpose, mass shootings, we can't even have a conversation about it. I voted for some additional protections. I voted against some additional protections. I'm for common sense gun regulations that require people to get licenses and training, and I support the restrictions that we have in place now.
Thank you. Mr. Goff, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I too am a legal gun owner, have been since I was 12. Used to go hunting all the time. Too busy now. And I do believe in background checks. I do believe in training. That stuff I think is necessary. Yes, we did have a terrible tragedy that happened in Connecticut, and I do understand that. and I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for the families. But what we have in place, the restrictions on type of guns, how much ammo, the age restrictions, the extra permits that I think are just extra taxes, that's where it gets too far down the line. I don't like that. That is stepping on people's rights to me. According to the CCDL, 70% of all gun charges in the state of Connecticut are dropped. That's the problem right there. That you can have all the laws in the world, but if they're not being held up in court, what's the purpose of them? Who are they really helping? You go commit a robbery, you have a gun, that charge is dropped, you go out and get another one, you hurt somebody. And that's sad. And that's the problem, is the lack of training. And just like the state representatives were talking about earlier, mental health, that is huge. The reporting, that if you see something, say something, and know that there's people there to help people, that needs to be expanded. We need to, if we have a law, even though many of ours, I believe, are unjust, they need to be enforced, and we need to help people so we can try to prevent other issues in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Needleman, you have 1 minute to rebut.
Thank you. Actually, I think that when I listened to the debate in the Senate about some of the gun bills that we passed, when I listened to the debate around Ethan's law with Ethan's parents standing in the balcony, and I listened to one of my colleagues talk about the supreme right of gun owners to own anything they want, anytime, when these people had a child who died because of an accident, I was appalled. I find myself, as a gun owner and as somebody who believes that you have a right to defend yourself, shocked at some of the things, not that Brandon has said, but that some of the things people on the other side of the aisle have said.
You have 10 seconds.
Yeah, when it came to removing guns from the houses with the threats of domestic violence, I listened to Republican after Republican after Republican speak against that law, and I was appalled.
Thank you.
Okay, the last question will be for Brandon Goff first. How would you prioritize environmental issues in the lower Connecticut River Valley? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. So I started out in local politics or government, being on Brownsfield's redevelopment agency, like I was saying. And that's important because, one, that solves many problems. It solves the pollution problems that come from the old manufacturing buildings. It solves the blight issues that are happening in the towns. And it can solve a housing issue that we have. So I really want to expand the Brownsfield program because it's a triple whammy. It's perfect. There's a lot of towns in Connecticut that have wells polluted because of PFAS, because of the contaminants, and that's something that needs to be worked more towards from the state, coming down to the towns, giving funding to help cleaning out more areas, so it's not just on the backs of the local committees trying to dig it up or hurt the values of the house because they have water that's not their fault. Another way that's not talked about too much, but this kind of goes back to the affordable housing I was talking about with Brownsfields, but if we rewrite or reform or just get rid of our affordable housing plan that we have now, there'll be a lot less developments built in watershed areas that towns did not want. And that's very important, and that has not been changed. And then further, we do have a lot of experience, a lot of lakes, rivers, everything is very polluted. And I do want to expand those programs, and I do want to get the state and everyone else on the same page, because it seems that depending on which company or biologist you talk to, there's many different plans on what helps, what doesn't, and then look at that, all the fish in the lake are dead, which nobody wants that, but it happens too often.
You have 10 seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Needleman, you have 3 minutes. How would you prioritize environmental issues in the lower Connecticut River Valley?
Well, having the privilege of representing a lot of towns in the Connecticut River Valley, it's a major priority for me. I think I benefited from moving here at a time when the cleanup of the Connecticut River began. The Gateway Commission, which is a commission administered out of the COG, the Council of Government, has done a phenomenal job, and their director, by the way, is retiring this year after being the advocate for many, many years and the head of the Gateway Commission. They're tasked to preserve the view of the land from the river, but since the creation of the EPA and some of the environmental regulations that have ensued since then, we have a pristine river. I mean, it is absolutely amazing to be out on the river and look in both directions, in all directions, and see what you see. So I'm proud to represent these towns. I have a couple of towns on Long Island Sound, and I have one that is not on the river, but 9 of my towns are riverfront towns. They all have land here, and so the priority, I think, as Christine said, and the job she did with the hydrilla was really quite astounding. I have to tip my hat to a former opponent, Melissa Gebron, who was a big advocate for the pass on, even though she still doesn't talk to me. I have to tip my hat to her for her work on the $10 fee for registrations, that money is going into invasive species mitigation, and I absolutely support as much brownfield remediation as we can possibly do. I will say I take great exception with some of the regulations that DEEP has instituted, including and up to the Transfer Act, which has led a lot of properties to sit fallow for a long time. We do tend to, in some cases, over-regulate things, and I'm proud of the fact that in my first term, after being on the books for 35 years, we were able to overturn that and replace it with a more common sense law. So I'm a big environmental advocate. I'm a climate change believer. I believe that as the energy chair, I try to balance climate change mitigation and reliability and rates as we transition to a carbon-free future to save our planet and to save our state. Very, very active. I formed the Municipal Solid Waste Working Group that's going on right now to come up with a plan for solid waste for the next 20 years, because I think that that has not been handled correctly. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Goff, you have 1 minute to add to these comments.
Thank you. You're right. We don't have a good trash plan right now, because there almost isn't a trash plan in Connecticut right now, and I really hope we look to modernize that, whether it's modern burn sites, no emission landfills. There's plenty of options, but again, it's a little too late almost. And then on the other side, so I lived in Washington State, Evergreen State. They don't have emissions on cars because they said that's just punishing car owners. They said the only thing that fixes that is advancement in technologies. We have it. Where does the money go to? General Transportation Fund. Everyone has to pay for fees when they register their vehicles for the beaches. Does that money go to the beaches? No, another general fund. If we're going to have these fees, I'd like them actually go so you can directly see the results of our rivers, our beaches, cleanups, rebuilding, or don't have them. That's my thinking. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll move on to the closing statements. Mr. Goff, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I don't think I'll need 3 minutes. Normally I do like the old speak softly, carry a big stick thing, and it might be the submariner in me, but thank you again very much for having me here tonight. First big forum, debate style, my first big campaign. Definitely learned a lot, and I think I'm going to be very bored in about a week when the election results come out. My wife had to remind me of that one. Might have to like join the fire department or something to stay busy, because I don't know what I'm going to do. But realistically, right now, the state, it is in a very scary spot. There is no immediate fix on anything, but there are immediate tax relief programs that the Republicans have tried to put out, whether it's Bob's $2 billion relief plan or Republicans' last session $1.2 billion relief plan, to try to help people get through this recession, through the inflation and through the winter, with all the risks and scares that everyone has right now. If they don't know how to put food on their table, they don't know how to put gas or oil in their house. And I think that is the immediate relief that we should be giving back to everyone, especially with $5 billion in surplus. And then on top of that is looking at the future. Right now we have 114,000 open jobs in the state of Connecticut. And we're not even close to the amount of people to fill it. Because it's sad to say that it's hard to keep people in Connecticut. We don't have the mountains that Washington does, we don't have the beaches that the South does, and we don't have the cities that Boston and New York does. So what we should have is affordable housing, safe place to live, that's cheap, and with plentiful jobs and a lot of training sources. But we don't have that. We're focused too much on, okay, people and businesses are leaving, better add another tax so we can make up that loss. And to me, that's just wrong, and that's not working. And I'm very scared that if this continues, how much farther the state can go downhill. Thank you again for hosting this tonight. Thank you, Norm, Chris, and Christine. And don't forget to vote November 8th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goff. Senator Needleman, you have a closing statement for 3 minutes, please.
Sure. Again, thank you guys, and thanks to Chris and Christine, I like the sound of that. And thank you, Brandon, for running a campaign that I think has been issues-based, and I absolutely, sincerely believe in your desire to do the right thing. Also, thank you for your years of service on the submarines. I don't know how you do that. I don't think I could. I'd get claustrophobic. So thank you. It's our last line of defense. And thanks to Congressman Courtney for actually funding that, pushing through Congress to build more subs, even though building more subs has taken workers away from my business. I do my best work trying to bring people together. The proof is in the pudding. The energy bills that we passed were almost completely bipartisan. We worked as a team, the two Democratic chairs and the two Republican ranking members. We swatted away things we didn't want to do. We ended up with bills that, if you know how the Senate works and the House works, bills can be talked to death. Our bills, thanks to Senator Formica, who is retiring, and my co-chair, Representative Arconte, who is leaving the House for another job, hopefully, and Representative Ferraro from West Haven, we passed some astoundingly good legislation that will empower our regulatory authority to do more to oversee the utilities, but also to expand our use of renewable energy. I believe that the best legislation is legislation that has the broadest base of support. My personality, tend to like to be a peacemaker. It makes me want to talk to people and listen to things that I don't agree with. And maybe I can be persuaded. I have been on many issues. I'm a pragmatist. I believe that the perfect should never be the enemy of the good. I'm not an ideologue. I like to get the job done, and I think I've gotten the job done in my 4 years. And with that, I would just ask for your support on November 8th. And look, if you win, you will be very busy. So. And I know I'm busy now anyway, with or without it. So I really, I do ask for everybody's support and vote of confidence on November 8th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the candidates, all 4 candidates. I'd like to thank Valley Regional High School for making this possible. I'd like to thank you all, the audience, for not only just attending, but also for submitting the questions for the forum. I'd like to thank Valley Shore Community Television for televising this. Don't forget you can watch it again tomorrow night. And I'd like to thank my co-host, Tom Piezzo of the Brainerd Library.
And thank you very much, Ann Thompson of Essex Library. And I appreciate everybody's participation. Again, these are your questions, and this is your forum, so I appreciate all your engagement. Get home safely, drive carefully, have a good night. Thank you.